Okay, so it's an exhausting topic. You like my yawn?
Hi, I'm Molly,
I'm Alec.
and this is our Sprinter van.
2007
Dodge.
Dodge Sprinter van, not a Mercedes, but very similar.
We bought it last year, and we have been slowly working on converting it so that we can travel in it.
Slowly but surely.
That gives us an opportunity to source affordable materials and also do our research as we go. YouTube has been one of the big resources for us to find out how we would want to do it or how other people have done it. So we wanted to make these videos for our own documentation, but also because maybe it might be helpful to at least one person out there.
Yeah, helpful or entertaining to just watch us struggle.
So when it comes to installation, a lot of people have a lot of opinions, and I'm sure that if you have a van right now, you are finding that out. I did not realize. There's a few different opinions that drastically vary. Some people do not insulate their van at all. That didn't sound like a good option for us.
We live in Idaho, so it's pretty cold here for a lot of the year. We don't have anything.
At least half, at
yeah,
least.
We don't have anything on like Michigan, but it's cold. It's cold.
It's not just summer, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
So, other really big dividing factor is if people think or decide to use a vapor barrier, which
Yes.
is a waterproof, basically, lining
Yeah.
on the outside
It
of.
stops water from getting either from the inside to the outside of the van, like through condensation, or from the outside to the inside. And that's probably, I think, maybe the most hotly debated topic, because if you do go for a vapor barrier, then it needs to be good. Like, it needs to actually perform its job, which means you shouldn't have any cracks. It should basically be sealed off. A lot of people say that it's impossible to get that right, and so instead of using a vapor barrier to protect against moisture, it's better just to kind of give it an open air concept and get like a heater. That way it cycles air in and out. That way whatever moisture builds up dries off quickly.
And you wouldn't want a vapor barrier in that case because you could potentially be trapping moisture somewhere that the air could not get to it.
Yeah. So in that situation, obviously the vapor barrier is not what you want, because you'll be trapping a lot of moisture in. And I guess living in vans is relatively new. I like this. Building them out like this is relatively new. And so I just don't think there's enough data out there to say whether one works better or one works or doesn't work at all, or one sort of works.
It's kind of up to you specifically where you're
Yeah.
going to be, what you're going to
climate
be
you're
doing in it.
yeah.
So yeah, that's a big dividing factor. We obviously decided to go with the vapor barrier. The next thing is what materials you will use to insulate. You've got spray foam, foam boards, actual fiber insulation, which
Yeah.
people say definitely don't use fiberglass insulation like you would use in a house.
Yeah, because if it's open anyway, or the van rattles around, fiberglass gets everywhere, and then you breathe it in, and then you'll die.
So you can make that decision
Yeah.
for yourself. The ones that people do love using are recycled materials. We've seen water bottles. We used denim, which is recycled jeans, and the one that you would use if you had the money for it would be sheep's wool, because it's like the ultimate
Yeah.
natural.
Sheep's wool. And also, I think it also acts as an air filter.
Yeah.
That's the go-to.
If we had all the money in the world.
Yeah, there's also Thinsulate. Like, I think you can buy a whole Sprinter van pack from Thinsulate. It's quite expensive. I think it's like $700, but it has like already these pieces that fit everywhere in the van. So if you have a bigger budget, that could be a really good option too.
Spray foam is the other one. You can
Yeah.
use cans. Another really common way, and I think probably one of the easiest ways I've seen, is people go and get their van spray insulated. It
Yeah.
does cost more money than what we wanted to spend, but if we had the money, I probably would have also just gone with that.
I would have opted for that. That just seems like it's solid. But the only issue with that is it's not very environmentally friendly. The spray foam, when it degasses, it puts off a lot of weird gases, and it's just not the best. But to each his own.
Also much easier than what we've done.
That's true.
Much easier.
Yeah. But we use recycled materials.
Is that recycled?
I bought it used.
The way that we're going to share about our van build is not coming from a spot of being professionals in any way. This isn't our area of expertise really, but it is something that we wanted to learn how to do. So this video and the videos that will be coming will just be our self-educated perspective and the decisions that we chose to go with. We're not saying that this is the right way, the best way, the way you should particularly do it. I definitely think that if you're building your own van, it would be a great idea to do lots of research and watch lots of different ways to do it, and maybe we can be one of those ways. But nothing that we're saying is coming from a hard and fast, this is the way everyone should, because there's just a lot of different ways to build vans.
There's no right way in the end.
But there have been a lot of different videos that have helped us learn. You know, we've pulled a lot of different details from the videos we've watched.
By the time we're done, we're gonna end up. It's gonna be like a meld of like 1,000 different builds that we've seen and a few original ideas.
First thing that we did before even starting any of the building was to do all of the prep work.
That looked like a lot of cleaning at first. Yeah, I mean, if you have a new van, I guess you don't experience this, but this being a very used and old van, there's a lot of cleaning involved, a lot of dirt in a lot of places you would not expect dirt to be.
So we took the factory floors off, cleaned out everything underneath them, and then we did a lot of rust prevention. So we found a lot of spots of rust under the floor.
Yeah.
And we made sure to grind them, sand them, treat them, cover them.
Get rid of the top rust so you can get down to the metal, and then we spray painted them with primer.
Yeah. Would highly recommend looking into doing that if you are doing a van build, just because it's a good way to lay a foundation for a solid, secure start.
Yeah.
We also filled in some holes. Alec filled in some holes.
Yes, there were some holes from the previous owner in the floor, and so it was fun banging them out, spraying them, filling them with silicone.
Yep. The next thing that we did that I had no idea was even a thing, but Alec found a video on
the Restoration Couple?
Restoration Couple.
Yes, great. Great. No,
Alec loves the Restoration Couple.
The man's a genius.
He talked about something that I hadn't seen anybody talk about, which is the fact that the framework of the van and the panels of the van sometimes come apart, especially for older vans. So
that can rattle. It can be very annoying. So what the guy did, his name escapes me, but the guy at the Restoration Couple, make sure you check him out. He just went around basically and re-adhered where the ribs of the van and the outside paneling had separated. So just wherever you could push it away, we just put silicone in there just so it wouldn't rattle. What a lot of people look at too is putting in dampening pads to help that. Ours actually came with them very conveniently.
So yeah, we just made sure to give it a good clean, any rust prevention that needed to be done, made sure all the framework was secured so that it wouldn't be rattling metal on metal. And then, yeah, we were really lucky to find that there were dampening pads in place, because that was something we were going to probably consider doing, but it was already there. So after we had all of those steps covered, we moved on to the actual insulation. We had foam board insulation that Alec found at an auction.
Yeah, and I'm sure we can cut videos where people see this too.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, just foam board.
Solid foam board. The very first thing we did with insulation was cut those foam boards out to fit inside the large panels of the van. It was a difficult thing that I did not anticipate being difficult. Yeah. It's a lot of work. It's very messy. There is lots of
we were
all
told
over the ground.
The best advice we got was to use templates. But
how do you make templates?
Yeah, then we started realizing that if you make templates, you just have to cut everything twice.
Which is to carve it to the right shape. So we were all sorts of ghetto using kitchen knives and estimating as much as we possibly could. Took a lot longer and made a big mess, but it worked out. I don't have any better suggestion for anyone coming after us.
No, it's just guess and check. That's really
truth. Maybe just a little bit off this top here, because everything else was fine.
If you're doing that part, you have my sympathies, because it is just a kind of a difficult step.
The indentations of these, when you put a big piece of cardboard over it, you can't see where you need to draw the lines. So
once we got those cut to the right size,
we got all those in place with the spray adhesive and held them in place. We got a quick drying one, so you didn't have to do what a lot of people do, which is like wedge things all across the van to keep things in place. And then we went around the edges and used spray foam just to really lock it in place.
We then used denim insulation on the top half of the van into all the crevices,
kind of the cavities of the van, and the cavities in between where you have the actual frame and the outside. We used denim up top because it does retain moisture, so we didn't want to put it bottom where moisture will end up. If there is any moisture, hopefully there won't be. Yada yada yada. A bunch of insulation talk.
So we put the denim at the top. On the bottom, we used a spray foam insulation.
And the foam boards.
And
a combination, yeah.
Yeah, so we also cut out some foam boards to fill the larger spaces and then use spray foam around it and in the cavities.
Yeah, in the end, what we did, I am really happy with. It's kind of a mixture of different types of insulation. Like up top, we put the foam board in front of the denim. But I'm actually really happy with how that ended up being. I think that's going to be great. And on the bottom, like we did the spray foam. And in the middle, we just did the foam boards with a little bit of spray foam more to keep it in place.
Yeah. So we have a few different methods that we combined. We're hoping that it works out well. We then are covering the front of all of that with Reflectix, which is another really commonly used.
Yeah. Now I think everyone knows the right way to use it, more or less. But there was a while where people were just putting Reflectix like directly on the metal, and that basically negates any insulation properties Reflectix has. You're supposed to give it like a 1 inch or maybe a little bit more air gap, so that way the Reflectix uses the air to insulate. So that's what we ended up doing basically when we put Reflectix. Is there's a bit of space between it and the van, and so hopefully our plan is hopefully it'll work out and create an air gap and actually help us insulate even more.
But it also works as a vapor barrier, which is something we did decide to use. Just for the sake of our peace of minds, we put a tarp underneath our floorboard before we put the factory floor back on. So there was a black kind of tarp that came up from all the sides, and then we were able to seal that to the Reflectix on the top. So there's one solid vapor barrier.
So yeah, a lot of research, a lot of guessing, and
Best estimations.
Yeah, best estimations, and also looking at like, we don't have a huge budget for this, so looking at what's a cheaper option, or is it worth it to, double the cost or something if it's only going to help 10% more.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So, but I'm really happy with how it ended up, and I think, we won't really know until we're living in it whether it worked, but...
Other key thing is we have not insulated the ceiling yet. That's going to be a different process because we haven't gotten our fan, and by the time we were kind of ready to get started on the ceiling insulation, it was really wet and dreary here, which meant that we weren't going to be able to give the glue around the fan time to set. So now we're kind of just waiting for it to get a little bit nicer, like so that we can get the ceiling done. And that's kind of the stopping point that we're at with the insulation is we just need to get the ceiling done.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's kind of where we are in our process. The next step is going to be getting some floors put in, and we really want to get the ceiling insulated and all sorted. So floor and ceiling.
Yeah, floor, ceiling. Oh, and if you have any good suggestions, good things you've seen for a floor, let us know. Because right now we're kind of just thinking hardwood, but I kind of feel like getting like a giant rubber mat and cutting it to fit perfectly would be so nice too. I think it would be. But.
So yeah, hopefully that maybe was interesting, informational, or helpful. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned to see how things progress. Hopefully it ends up with the van.
Yeah.
Alec's gonna kill me.